Hello everyone, welcome. This is your third chapter, the Visual Basic Language Procedures, Scope and Exception Handling. See here, specifying optional procedure arguments. So you can make arguments optional in VB.NET procedures if you use the optional keyword when declaring those arguments. So if you make one argument optional, all the following arguments must be also be optional, and you have to specify a default value for each optional argument. You specify a default value with the equal to default value in the procedures argument. So here there is one example. See, the sub procedure display message is called in sub main. See the argument sub display message optional by val str text as string equal to hello from Visual Basic. See, this is the procedure sub procedure definition. See, the argument is str text. We have only one argument, that is str text, but we have declared it optional. So we have made this argument optional. See, optional by val str text as string equal to hello from Visual Basic. So here hello from Visual Basic is the value, that is default value. For optional type you will have to specify the default value. So here it is hello from Visual Basic. And one more thing, if you specify one argument optional, then all the other following arguments will be optional. Okay, but here we have only one argument, that is str text. If you use more arguments, the other arguments also will be optional. So here, see, the output of this program will be hello from Visual Basic. So argument, so how this is how to make arguments optional. Okay, and optional with default value. See, there is one more, it is preserving a variable's values between procedure calls. So in this there is one example. You call counter function to increment the count, but when the program ends it just displays one count. Okay, see here the program int loop index as integer, int value equal to 0. Int loop index is one variable declared using dim keyword. So here for loop int loop index equal to 0 to 4, int value equal to counter. Next, int loop index system.console.writeline int value. See here for loop int loop index equal to 0. So for loop will execute 5 times, that is 0 to 4 5 times. For loop will execute 5 times, and int value equal to 0. Int value will be incremented. See, the counter function is called here. Okay, so how many times this counter function is called is, it is 5 times. See, the function, that is function counter as integer, dim int count value as integer. See, inside function you have declared a variable, that is int count value as integer. So int count value plus equal to 1. So what is that? Int count value equal to int count value plus 1. So here, and return int count value. So you have used function, so you will have to use the return keyword. Okay, function with return. See, return int count value. So it will return int count value. So what is the value of int count value? That is 1. Okay, see, for int loop index equal to 0 to 4, see, the first loop int equal to counter. So counter, the function is called here, it will go to the function. So function says there is one there is one variable, that is int count value as integer. So int count value plus equal to 1. So it will increment int count value to 1. So, and each time the function is called, it will be incremented by 1. But our output should be, actually the output should be 5, because 0 to 4, that means the counter function is called 5 times. So here int count value will be incremented 5 times. So the int value should be 5. But when you run this program, you will get output, it is 1. It will display the output 1. So what is the problem here? See, the problem is, each time when the function counter is called, the variable, that is int count value, is it is initialized. Okay, each time it is initialized, but here the incremented value, it will not preserve the value, the incremented value inside the function. So inside the function, int count value is incremented by 1, and again when it goes to the calling program, okay, so it will not preserve, it will not retain the value. It is because of the variable, that is int count value, is each time it is declared. Okay, each time it is declared and initialized, but here the value is not initialized, but each time it will be declared in the function. So it will not preserve the value. Okay, so to solve this problem, we have here there is one example. See the same example, dim int loop index as integer, int value equal to 0, and for loop int value equal to counter function is called, and it will go to counter function. But see, the variable is declared, int count value is declared with the keyword static. Okay, static, and int count value plus equal to 1, that means int count value equal to int count value plus 1, return int count value. So it will return the value 1. Okay, for the first loop, that is 0, int loop index equal to 0. So next it will be incremented to 1, and again it will call the counter function, and so int count value was, here it was 1, and again it will become 2, because here it will preserve the previous value, because function counter as integer static int count value. So here we have made this int count value as static. So static variables will be declared and initialized only once. Okay, so each time when this function is called, the static int count value will not be declared, it will be declared only once. So it will preserve the value. Okay, so while running this code, it will display the value 5. So now the exception handling. Okay, exception handling, first one is using unstructured exception handling. Unstructured exception handling revolves around the on error go to statement. Okay, and structured exception handling uses try catch finally statement. So now first one is unstructured exception handling. It uses on error go to statement. So wherever there is on error go to statement, it is unstructured exception handling, and if you use try catch finally, then it is structured exception handling. So first one we will see the unstructured exception handling. So that is using on error go to. See, the general form is on error go to line 0, line -1, resume next. So that is on error go to line 0 or line 1 and resume next. So here the parts of this statement is go to line. Okay, on error go to line, go to 0, go to -1. On error go to line, it enables the exception handling code that starts at the line specified in the required line argument. The line argument is any line label or line number. Okay, So if an error occurs, program execution goes to the given location. So go to line means go to line, the line means any label or line. Go to 0, go to line means line argument, line label or line number. Go to 0 means it disables the enabled exception handler in the current procedure and resets it to nothing. So it will turn off the exception handling. Go to -1 is same as go to 0. So go to -1 also, it will reset the exception handler, that is it will turn off the exception handling. And resume next specifies that when an exception occurs, exception skips over the statement that caused the problem and goes to the statement immediately following. So execution continues from that point. So resume next, so it will resume, the execution will resume from where the exception was occurred. Okay, here is one example. Int 1 equal to 0, int 2 equal to 1, int 3 as integer. On error go to handler. On error go to handler. See, on error and error go to line. Line means maybe a line number or the any label. So here on error go to handler. Handler is the label. Int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1 exit sub handler. See here exception handling code, how to, and exception handler here on error go to handler, int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1 exit sub handler system.console.writeline overflow error. See here handler is, it will just display, it will print overflow error. So what is the error? Error line is int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1. So that is int 2, that is division by 0, int 1 is equal to 0, int 2 equal to 1. So that is int 3 will be 1 divided by 0. So divide by 0 is an error, so it will be error. So error statement is int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1, and on error go to handler. So here exception or error occurred and it will go to handler. Handler is, it will print overflow error. Okay, so there is one more overflow error, arithmetic overflow exceptions, so which are exception number 6. So for every exception, here every exception is numbered, okay, but overflow exception is number 6. So int 1 equal to 0, int 2 equal to 1, int 3 as integer. On error go to handler, int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1. So this statement is an error. So handler is, if error number equal to 6, then system.console.writeline overflow error, because here it will get the error number. Error dot number is a method. Okay, error dot number equal is method. It will get the number of the exception. So overflow, arithmetic overflow exceptions are numbered 6. The number of arithmetic overflow exception is 6. So it will check the number of error. Okay, error dot number equal to 6. If error dot number equal to 6, it will print overflow error. Okay, number 6 means it is overflow error. So the error object also has a new get exception method that returns an exception object. Using type of and is keywords in an if statement, you can handle exception object such as overflow exception. Okay, see here the same example. On error go to handler, int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1, the statement where exception occurs or error occurs. The handler is, if type of error get exception is overflow exception, then system.console.writeline overflow error. Type of error get exception. See, this is a method, type of error get exception. So it will get the type of exception if the type of exception is overflow exception. Okay, so if the type, so here it will get type of error dot get exception means it will get the type of exception, but here our exception type is overflow exception, and it will check if it is overflow exception, then it will print overflow error. Okay, so this is how to use the method get exception using type of and is keywords. So here using resume next and resume line, how to use resume next and resume line. So it lets you resume program execution even after an exception has occurred. You can use resume to resume execution with the statement that caused the exception, resume next to resume execution with the statement after the one that caused the exception, and resume line where line is a line number or label that specifies where to resume execution. So resume to resume the program. Okay, so resume to resume the execution with the statement that caused the exception, and resume next, it will resume the next line where the exception caused, and resume line will resume that line or the label which is specified in the resume statement. Okay, so here is one example. Dim int 1 equal to 0 into 2 equal to 1. On error go to handler, that is int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1. So this is an exception statement here, the statement where error occurs. Int console system.console.writeLine, it is program completed. So exit sub handler is if type of error get exception is overflow exception, then system.console.writeLine overflow error, resume next. See the resume next, how resume next is used here. The output will be overflow error. Overflow error. See, on error go to handler. So here this statement int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1, it causes an error, so it will go to handler. So handler is, it will print, the handler will print overflow error. So it, see the output, that is overflow error. And resume next means it will resume. Okay, it will go to the next line of the statement that occurred, that where the error occurs. Okay, so the next statement of error is, the error statement is int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1. So the next line is system.console.writeLine program completed. So resume next means it will go to the next line of the error line. Okay, it will print the next line of the error line. Error line is int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1. So the next line is program completed. So resume next means it will print program completed. So the output is overflow error, program completed. See, here is an example of using resume line. See the same example, on error go to handler, int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1. Next line. Okay, next line, system.console.writeLine program completed. Handler is handler, if type of error get exception is overflow exception, then print overflow error. So resume next line. See, on error go to handler. So what is handler here? Handler is the handler is label here. On error go to handler. So error occurred and it will go to handler. It will print overflow error. Resume next line. Next line is system.console.writeLine, that is program completed. So it will print, the output of this program will be overflow error, program completed. So next line, it will go to, it will resume the line next to the error. Okay, so error statement is int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1. It will resume the next line. The next line is system.console.writeLine. Okay, program completed. It will, so the output of this program will be overflow error program completed. And one more, you can also use an on error resume next or on error resume line statement to make Visual Basic continue program execution after an exception has occurred. So this form is sometimes preferable to the on error go to form. Okay, if you don't want to write an explicit exception handler, so if you don't want to write any explicit exception handler, so here you have written handlers, exception handlers like system.console.writeLine overflow error. If you don't want to write any explicit handler, see here you can just write on error resume next, on error resume next, int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1. So here resume next means it will resume the next line of the error statement. So error statement is int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1, and it will print, it will execute the next statements of error line. Okay, so here one more, using on error go to 0, that is to turn off unstructured exception handling. You can use on error go to 0 or on error go to -1 statements. So here on error go to 0 and on error go to -1 acts same. Okay, here is an example. See the same example, on error go to handler, on error go to 0. See on error go to handler int 3 equal to int 2 divided by int 1, and on error go to 0, system.console.writeLine program completed, handler if handler, that is printing overflow error. See the here error handling is on error go to handler, that is error handling is the printing overflow error, but it will turn off handling the exception. So here you have written a handler, that is overflow error, but here after the error statement you have written on error go to 0, that means it will turn off the exception handling, so it will not go to handler. Okay, on error go to 0 or on error go to -1, the effect will be same, that means turning off unstructured exception handling. So here exception handling is you have written the handler, and the if type of error get exception is overflow exception, then it will print overflow error, but it will not go to the handler. It will simply turn off the exception handling. Okay, and it will continue with the next statement. And one more, getting an exceptions number and description. For more information on exceptions, you can use error objects number and description properties. Okay, here VB.NET is having number of exceptions, and all the exceptions are given a number. Okay, here the overflow error is, the number of overflow error is, it is 6, exception number is 6. And see the example here, on error go to handler and the error statement, and system.console.writeLine, the program completed, handler is system.console.writeLine, error number occurred 1, error number comma error dot description. So when you run this program, it will print error number 6 occurred, exception of type system.overflow exception was thrown. Okay, so here error dot number, in system.console.writeLine you have written error dot number. It will get you the number of that exception and error description. So the number is 6, error number is 6, and the description is exception of type system.overflow exception was thrown. Okay, so this is the error descriptions. So the error number is 6, and the error, it will return, it will give you the error description and error number. Okay, See, one more the concept is raising an exception intentionally. There are cases in programs where you might want to create an exception because although no Visual Basic trappable exception has occurred, some situation may have occurred that is incompatible with your program's logic. You can create an exception intentionally called raising an exception with a Visual Basic error object's raise method, which is declared in this way internally. So this is raising an error intentionally, that is see the general form or syntax of raise method. By val raise by val number as integer, optional by val source as object equal to nothing, optional by val description as object equal to nothing, optional by val help file object equal to nothing, optional by val help context as object equal to nothing. See, this is the syntax of raise method. Okay, syntax of raise method. See the arguments, the number here by val number as integer. Number means long integer that identifies the nature of the exception. So number, it will return an integer, and the source string expression naming the object or application that generated the exception. Use the form object project.class, that means the file name. Okay, and description string expression describing the exception. So it is the description of the exception, and help file the path to the help file in which help on this exception can be found, and help context id identifying a topic within help file that provides help for the exception. Okay, there is one example. On error, go to handler error.raise VB object error plus 51 system.console.writeline program completed. Handler is system.console.writeline error number of 0, error occurred of 1, error number minus VB object error description. So here you are raising an error, that is VB object error plus 51, that is you are raising your own exception number, that is 51. Okay, you are raising the number 51, it is your own exception number, but here the Visual Basic reserves a certain range of exceptions for itself. So Visual Basic has its own exception numbers and reserved exception numbers. We can't use that reserved exception number. Okay, to avoid that, you can add the value VB object error to your exception number. Okay, and then subtract it when you handle the exception to recover your original exception number. So our original exception number is 51, so it should not conflict with the VB's reserved exception number. So for that, first you should add it to VB object error, then in handler you will have to subtract it from error number to get your original exception number. So your number is here 51. Okay, so first in raise method you add that 51 to VB object error. So here error raise VB object error plus 51, that is, so this line, the adding is to avoid any conflict with the reserved error number, reserved exception number of VB.NET, and raising an error here. And in handler, see the system.console.writeline error number 0 occurred 1, error number minus VB object error number, that is the error number of VB object, the plus 51. Okay, the error number of which is specified in raise, method. So it will get you the error number of the exception which was raised in raise method minus VB object error. So this subtraction will get you the specified exception number, okay, your own exception number. So that is error number minus VB object error, so it will get you 51. And error description, so you can handle these custom exceptions in the way that makes sense for your application. So that means you can use your own any exception number. So here is, you can see the output. Error number 51 occurred, okay, error number 51 occurred, application defined or object defined error. So that is error description. Error description is application defined or object defined error, and error number is 51, okay, that is the error number is your own exception number, that is 51, okay. So this will be the output.